Are we going to do introductions?
Yeah. It's up to you guys.
I'll get started. I'm Tripp.
I'm Jack.
Everybody around here calls me the review god because I created this systematic way to review media that's been proven that is perfect.
Oh, you're out the gates.
That's exactly. I was thinking. I was like, this immediate. The first thing you do is plug your own.
I've been planning.
Plug your own review system.
I've been planning this.
That
wasn't a joke.
This is like issue 0 of a podcast without a name.
Yeah, without a name, without a concept.
We don't have. It's just us talking. My part, I want to do it. The only thing I want to make sure we do is I want people to know that I'm not going to give good ratings to every single thing that exists. You know how hard I've tried to find.
So what? Scale of 1 to 6. Like 1 to 6 stars. What's not a good rating? Obviously.
What do you mean? Do you not understand your own system?
Well, we're going off the 6-star system. Obviously.
I'm not. I'm going off a superlative system.
I'm not even going to rank it because I think rankings, you're just putting things in a box.
Yes, I'm not going to rank it either.
Put in a box.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, but if you had to put,
I also did not read it,
and I'm gonna rank it on 5 stars. So my reviews always look a little bit less than Tripp's 6-star system
to make you seem like a more discerning man.
Yeah,
like you're like, well, I'm
where I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna be too high on this. It's like only 5 stars.
You know how fucked up it is that you came up with the joke from Spinal Tap about going to 11 on accident.
Yeah. Like they were an accident.
Yeah, he just was like, "What if we did a 6-star rating?" And I thought he was fucking with me.
No, and he was being so for real.
You keep saying this like it's a joke, but I use this system in my own head.
Yeah, which is insane. It makes me wonder, like, do you understand the rules of the road? Like
Tripp, have you ever heard of autism?
What does it make sense? I mean,
no, I haven't. Should I look into it? I like looking into things.
Have I heard of?
I'm a big fan.
I kind of like to fixate on things a lot. Like, I'll have one thing and I'll be really on it for a while.
Do I get to count it? Can I count it? Because I really like that. But if I can't, then no. But
that's no shade. I want to clarify. No shade for people who are autistic.
That sounds like you were shading them.
There's only going to be one.
I don't think Tripp is autistic.
I just think
his rating system is stupid. That's all I have to say.
There's only going to be
going
one.
Going up to 11? It doesn't even make sense, bro. So I could say 5 is the mid. Like, what do you even mean by that?
No, we've talked about this. With the 5-star rating system, there is no average rating.
Well, 2.5.
You can't. But if you're rating on, I'm talking about whole integers.
Okay,
right?
cool.
Okay, so we're talking about a 10.
No,
a 10 system.
10 is too much.
Is average.
Yeah,
that's
this
too
is
many.
The crux that he thinks 10 is too many numbers.
10 is too many numbers.
Nobody
you
should
think
tell him
is
that they go on forever.
You're pro 6.
What do you mean?
You're pro 6 stars.
Absolutely, I'm pro 6 stars.
Yeah, it was like 10's too many. We would add. We'll make it so the 3's
Honestly,
in the middle.
The U.S. was better when we had 6 stars too.
I just believe that 6 stars gives us enough room to differentiate great from good, and also give us an average rating.
You're like a guy that had just like the printing press has come along, and you're still into using parchment based out of animal
papyrus.
Hides. And you're like, I found the best way to make the parchment. Like, we are going far beyond parchment.
Let's check the chat. Hey, chat, what do you think?
What chat?
What does chat think?
Is this real? I think overall the big problem with like the 6-star system is that you have to explain it to people. Like the intuitiveness of the 5-star system.
Yeah, and you have to admit that you use it.
Yeah,
that's
you're like
that's the most shameful part.
Well, I mean,
but just to be clear, you're talking about your rating system in which you give everything a 1 to 6. There's no 0.
Whole integers,
only 6 stars. That's what you're only up to 6.
Yeah.
But you get that extra star because then you get to go in the middle, right?
Well, my biggest problem is I do Goodreads and I look at the reviews and it's like, I wish I could review this as average, but if I give it a 2-star rating, that makes people think that I didn't like it.
Goodreads is the worst.
It is the worst.
And you're just throwing more flame on the badness of Goodreads.
I don't know.
You think people would start?
Listen. I love Goodreads, but I agree, it is ass.
Everybody,
Goodreads.
You know how many books I see ranked as good as Crime and Punishment?
Probably better.
Almost all of them.
Probably better than Crime and Punishment.
That's my biggest issue. Is I'll go and I'll read comic books and they'll be like, Power Girl, the worst Power Girl run in the world will be people will rank it 6 out of 10, and that's a bad thing.
But what would that be out of 6?
I don't know. That's the thing. You're just so confusing.
It would be exactly a 3, right?
No, it wouldn't. It would be
I think
above.
the beauty
You
about
can't
the
do.
10,
It would be
the
4.
5 to the 10 system is beautiful because it's an easy conversion, right?
Yeah, 5 to 10.
You just multiply by 2 or divide by 2.
You're doing like the
Five,
metric
six,
system.
and
Who's a
six.
guy like you that invented?
Do you want a 12-point ranking
and
system?
yards?
Yeah, it is like the imperial system.
It is like the imperial system.
where you're just like, no, actually, no. There's like 12 feet. There's 12 feet in a yard.
And everybody's like, why don't we just do the thing that's base 10? And you're like,
Wait,
well,
12 inches in a yard.
A yard's-
don't.
a yard's 3 feet,
The yard's 3 feet.
not 12 feet.
12
Whatever.
inches in a yard.
30
See, that's the
36
problem.
Inches,
That's the
36
fucking
inches in a yard.
problem.
and you're like an even worse because you have that, and it's still like not complicated or stupid enough for you.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
You're like-
5-star rating isn't complicated enough, or isn't yeah, it's not complicated enough. And then I need a rating system that's more stupid than 10 stars.
Yeah.
Out of 10.
I feel like even 10 stars, I'm just like, I don't know. What about something I love but didn't make me cry? Right? Like, I think that's why superlatives are the best rating system. But the point is, I'm not going easy.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I'm not just gonna be. I want to be. If this blows up, I want everybody. They have guides for oenologists in France, and they're like, "This is the guy that he'll tell you what wine to drink."
Phrenologists?
No, it sounds like you're praying to someone called the Nologist.
Oenologist,
Nologist.
Oenologists.
enologist, whatever it is, the wine guys,
Sommeliers?
sommeliers.
That's not even, that wasn't even,
Oh, no,
there
I
wasn't
think it's
like a
enology.
You're talking about onadism?
Oenology is like the study.
masturbating.
Yeah, it's not enologists. They're
Nice one.
sommeliers.
No,
Whatever.
you guys, Connor just had a banger joke.
Yeah, he
Say
had
it
a
again,
sweet
Connor.
joke about
Say it
onanism.
louder.
Say it louder.
Yeah,
I'm
onanism.
eating right now.
Oh, that's everybody
Great.
loves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
in
is,
audio
Connor.
format.
To interrupt somebody saying something, make a stupid joke, and then be like, 1 second. Let me finish
That
it.
rocks.
Okay.
I just
What do you
wanted
think,
my
like, onadism? Like what? You're into like masturbating and stuff, or
Yes.
That's so
Yes.
good, dude. We're back. The
We are
boys
so
are
back. The boys are
That
back
was
in
awesome.
town.
any Bible
boys,
enjoyers out
boys.
there? Anyone who likes the Bible?
I
Yeah.
do like the Bible. It's a book of stories
I
about.
think it's pretty sweet. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, parts of it are cool.
That's
There's
I'd
way
give
more
it a 3 out of
lineages.
6.
you know, it's a better book than the Bible though.
Year one.
Frank Miller's Batman Year
Batman
One.
Year One.
And that's welcome to whatever this ends up being.
We'll insert a title card. or
Yeah,
something.
we'll insert a title card, whatever we decide to call this. Regardless, welcome to it. And also, today we'll be reviewing Batman Year One. As you can tell by the preamble, that was all to lead up because 1 out of 6. It doesn't matter what rating system you have. 1 out of whatever is always the same. So. See, see,
Well,
I do feel like that's.
problem.
I feel like the way to end it would be some sort of critics' consensus. That's the best part of Rotten Tomatoes. Is like, sometimes there'll be like 80% movies, and they'll be like, good bump of fun for a family ride, and
Pump of fun.
Well, I don't know what it is. Like,
so we'll come to a critical consensus on a 6-star rating.
all right, yeah, I have it. A consensus
this
of
was a
the
6-star
on the
rating?
6-star rating. I give it 0.
So
Out
I
of
will
6
say
stars.
the
That's pretty
reason
bad.
why Rotten Tomatoes works.
I give it
is
like a
that
2, I guess.
They rate it on a binary. It's either like good or bad, and then
Yeah.
it's like because you can have a bunch of different rating systems, and then that all comes down to like, was it good, was it bad, and then you're like, oh, I guess
better, bad, more good than bad. I
more
guess.
good than bad, I suppose. But and then so you have that, and that's how you get like the tomato meter. Basically, it's
Yeah.
like how many people gave it a thumbs up, how many people gave it a thumbs down. So we can do something
People find this
similar.
charming.
Yeah.
We're off topic already.
Oh, it's awesome. No, don't worry. That's the beauty of podcasts, to my knowledge.
Yeah,
But
I thought like the color. My initial take is that it was fun to see Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli team up again because I think David Mazzucchelli did Born Again.
Yeah, and he wrote The Prince,
Oh.
right?
I know that was Maybe just sit on the next couple. Just think if this is this interrupt worthy?
The answer will always be yes.
I know that's why I say sit. And if it's yes 3 times in a row, go for it.
Oh.
but then
Hey,
the
didn't that guy
moment's
rank
passed.
the Prince?
Oh, yes. Sick.
All right, yeah.
That joke is sick, Connor.
That is pretty good.
That's Connor. He's a historian.
I do. Well,
Kind
Connor's
of
going to be
is.
floating right there, eating pizza right now. So
Can we put him as make him an anime girl or something?
that's.
We should
I
put him
will.
on, like-
I will put him
We
as a
should put like a
VTuber.
Greek statue in the back and put Connor's face on it.
Oh, that'd
That'd be
awesome.
awesome.
And then there's just a pizza that occasionally
Make sure we have
manifests.
one of the small cocks.
Well, I was going to say
Yeah.
do the statue of David, but make the penis even smaller so that it is accurate
Well,
to Connor.
I don't want like a big barbarous cock, you know.
It was fun. The colors were really
The
good.
colors were really good.
I love the art style in this.
I didn't like. I wasn't a huge fan of the cursive for Bruce Wayne's
I
monologue.
know that was. I feel like that was really. I think it's an age in the 80s. Everybody was taught cursive,
Yeah.
really well in high,
Yeah.
And then, like,
lower school.
I know cursive.
Me
I can
too.
read it.
I
but,
just don't like it.
I can read it. I swear.
I don't know. I agree, but I just had. I think maybe people had more practice. I don't know. I completely agree, but I'm not gonna.
I know what I get what he's going for. That Bruce Wayne is like more elegant than Gordon is
For
in
sure,
his thought
right?
process.
And it can be cool, right? Like it's an interesting. It's a way that you can tell the story. That it's medium. It's unique to the medium, which I like.
Yeah.
Just a pain in the ass.
So a kind of fun, at least like go into the story. Or fun fact, I suppose. The initial purpose of this was like during Crisis on Infinite Earths, they were going to reboot everything. And so basically Frank Miller, as sort of like a test run of like, here's what my rebooted Batman would sort of be like, made The Dark Knight Returns, which became like massively popular, became a huge thing. And then you had him kind of go back and be like, okay, wait, like, because before he was going to be like, all right, scrap a lot of like what made Batman Batman, and then he like read through kind of the older issues, and he's like, we don't need to like take Dynamite to Batman as a character. I think a lot of his stuff still like remains good. The big problem is like we need to like kind of modernize and then like streamline the origin story to make it so like people can like get into him and be like, all right, what's Batman's deal? What like where did he start from? And so a lot of the impetus from this was like starting out with something that was completely supposed to reboot it, and then just they found love for the source material, so like coming back and being like, let's honor that a little bit more.
Which is it speaks to the staying power. Is like it survived having like Bat Dog,
Yeah.
and being like we're going adventures
The
into
rainbow, the rainbow Batman, just having that guy.
the they were like, I guess Ra's al Ghul will come back. I guess one dude can be immortal.
I mean, that guy, Ra's al Ghul rocks.
It was a planet he was a gallivanting around adventure comics, fighting Dracula. 70s, hyper saturated colors that
that's cool. I mean, it's cool.
And it was something where, well, it
is cool.
It was really struggling in sales until like this kind of came out, like this and Dark Knight Returns, because a lot of what there was just like a malaise around like, okay, I've seen like Batman do his thing. And even though like the 80s movie came out and kind of reignited a lot of like spark in that, you kind of went to the Batman comics and it wasn't like campy, but it wasn't like as serious as like a lot of the other media that a lot of people were like, no, this is kind of the Batman I want to see.
didn't have any teeth, didn't have any sharp edges.
It came a lot more from Adam West than it came from like,
The campy and fun. The thing that disappointed me most about this comic was that they didn't give me enough Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
He ended up being my favorite part of year one by a
Completely,
long
I very
shot.
much agree.
I like that part where he cheats on his wife. That was cool.
I know you're saying that as a bit,
Policeman?
but I also
A cop cheating on his wife?
I love that part
I'm
of the
actually
story.
pro
for Jim.
cheating, so
Yeah,
that was a benefit.
I genuinely
Glad we all
really
agree.
like that part of the story for Jim because he's like falling out of love with his life. He's
Yeah.
fallen out of love with his career as a detective.
He's a good stand-in for your average. He's just like somehow anchors you in Gotham, and introduces you to the world.
And like, I wish we had gotten more of his own thoughts about his affair. And, I wish we had seen a little bit of behind the scenes of Barbara, coming to terms with it too. I think that I know that you're saying this is like a concise reintroduction to Batman, but that if we're looking for an interesting character study or even just a little bit of real world interaction, that would have been really interesting to see more of, I think.
I think, yeah, because the really cool part about Jim in like a lot of these early comics, or at least like in this one, you kind of see him going and being the antithesis to Batman, where he's been in the system. He's kind of like jaded by like the corrupt cops and jaded by like how everyone in the system is like fucked up, but he wants to do good. But Batman coming back in sort of is like, his parents died on that night, and then he left, and he kind of is coming back to not only a city that like killed his parents, but like the legacy that they left behind, like as like, no, we want to like make these streets safer, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like the legacy he remembers as his like parents were being good people is just like completely being tarnished by like all of that. So Batman's coming in with this, I guess, more like aspirational view of Gotham, whereas like Jim's been like beaten down,
Man on the street, you know.
yeah.
And it's interesting to me because like Jim seems to be the main character in this. Like Bruce doesn't undergo a lot of change throughout the story, and Batman kind of just acts as a foil to help Jim grow and change, like develop an understanding that was different from what he had.
100%, yeah.
You know, this is tough, right? Like nobody wants. It's a problem. Not necessarily a problem, but it's a tough thing about the medium is like, you better leave Batman how you found him.
Yeah.
You know,
That's-
the next guy that's gonna write. This guy, something they printed 80 years ago, is now worth millions of dollars.
But it's also like, this is why it's worth millions of dollars. Like there is an initial like, okay, Batman was on TV or whatever, but like kind of these foundational stories that are the like kind of the shibboleths that a lot of Batman authors go back to are the like Year One, Dark Knight Returns, all of these things where it's like building up Batman in a concise way. Because like there was Batman before this, but it was so scattershot, and like what people fell in love with was just like so. I guess like everyone found something where they were like, "That's a really cool Batman story," but then Frank Miller was like, "No, this is what Batman should be. This is like a really cool part of him." So
It's very Miller, very Miller.
In what is mostly a good way. I
think,
feel like
you have like Catwoman being a prostitute because he can't write women who are prostitutes. That's
I don't
his-
even think you can look at women.
You have
No,
a
I
little
think
bit.
he
You have a
hates-
little
but-
bit of Frank Miller sexism sprinkled in there, but
that's all. But that's also, it comes with the territory of Cold Frankie. There's a lot of like with him specifically. There's a lot of like weird stuff with like, okay, Frank Miller is a like he's a very like quintessential version of masculinity, and like seeing Batman in this, like you only see the good parts of like what that can entail, and then you get into like more of his books and you're like, oh, like this is like the toxic side of like what you're thinking. What's interesting to me is how like anti-authoritarian this book was, where it was like kind of talking about, it's like people are fucking done with these cops, they're like done with the corruption that inhabits Gotham PD. I fucking hate this. And like going back to like what Frank Miller later writes, you're like, this is like fucking crazy. Because
it's like when he was when his brain was still like not polluted by alcohol as such. He was just like he had an ear, he had eyes, he was living in New York and was like, yeah, this is terrible. He just wasn't like, what we need is a bigger dictator. We need someone stronger and meaner.
And like, he was like, no, the problem is that these guys who are like, they're just doing the wrong thing. Like if you get a guy in there who's doing the right thing, that's okay. And it's like, I think he doesn't analyze systems, but he did have like this ennui being like this person who probably lived in New York and was like constantly rattled by cops
In the 70s and 80s.
yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The golden age of New York.
Oh yeah, everyone loved it. It was
Yeah, I was gonna say this comic's kind of woke, guys. It's like ACAB,
yeah.
And
It is.
Yeah.
It is kind of.
Kind of the thing I like is how often Frank Miller's like, fuck the cops.
Yeah.
They're going to do nothing. There's no good cop in any of his writings.
But like,
That's not true. The probation officer in Sin City was a good cop.
also Jim.
Yeah,
Jim
but she
Gordon.
was a woman.
You're right, and
Tripp.
he makes it very clear that she is not only a woman but also a lesbian.
And
Yes, that's true.
Marv
not
says
that
it,
smart.
Marv says it like within 3 lines of meeting her. I guess she does try and double cross Marv. So maybe
They didn't even double cross him. She just thinks it's the right move.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. She doesn't. She just thinks it's the best thing to do at the time. But there are like, and I think Frank Miller does criticize the systems a little bit. Like in Sin City, the main antagonist for Marv's bit is like a deacon in the Catholic Church
For
or
sure.
whatever,
And that stays.
which is like systemic criticism of how the Catholic Church protects people who commit crimes against children.
His brother in That Yellow Bastard is a senator and the main villain.
Yeah. And then like the one of the main villains in this is the police commissioner. So like in a way, I do think it's criticism of the system in general,
Always.
saying that like these people in power are abusing their power to stay at the top. Just general systemic critique of
Of every-
institutions.
I also think the thing I like about this is like I feel like Batman, at least when I was in high school, 5 years ago,
8 months ago.
Yeah, 5 years, right?
Yeah, we're only 24.
I'm only 24 years old.
Yeah, we all we're
Crazy, I'm older than you. That's insane.
Like
Shut up, old man.
like Batman.
geriatric ass.
Some
small
people
penis having.
were like Batman's. I didn't tell anybody I like comics. But within my students, I have students that are like Batman's sweet. They're like people that are like well liked and leaders in the student community, or just like Batman.
Yeah,
and that's not something I had.
Christopher Nolan has a lot to do with it.
And
you can show
in the Marvel movies.
Yeah, you can show like it's like everyone likes Iron Man. Like Iron Man's like it's like our normal day like folk heroes, where it's like people like Robin Hood because they're just like, oh yeah, I know who Robin Hood is. Like it's just common parlance. But like people like Batman because like he had a bunch of good grounded movies that you can show like your dad. Yeah. Like once you have those, you kind of just cement yourself in like pop culture. Whereas like even the Tim Burton ones are kind of fucking weird. So it's like
you can tell it's a Tim Burton movie. Which is like,
oh yeah, and especially with the second one.
Yeah, with Danny DeVito as the
Penguin. And
you live by Burton and you die by Burton, right? You're like the Penguin's the coolest part of that movie.
He is,
but also you're like,
damn, that's intense.
I'm not gonna show. I gotta know somebody before I show them this movie.
Or like, oh my god, he's eating raw fish on screen. That's disgusting.
But I feel like the thing now is, Batman. People are like, he's the smartest man in the universe. He just give him a little planning time and he can stop. I'm like, that's not what makes Batman cool. This shit is what makes Batman cool, is that he's a dude on the street getting like ground down every day to like a nub.
Yeah.
And like coming back the next night with the cowl. Like when he's fighting the, like even his first fight when he gets like, it's awesome how he never has full health, I think.
Yeah. He's always kind of on the back foot, which is fun. And like it shows, he doesn't do enough aura farming in this. That's my big thing. Is he doesn't have enough aura in this because he fucks up and he's kind of like he doesn't mog on all the criminals like he does in all his other stories. But instead, he's just sitting there a little bit beta. Batman. Beta, it does begin with a B.
That's true.
And
beta
kind of a little beta man.
But it's refreshing.
Concerning. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think it's refreshing to see a version of him that gets stabbed by a criminal on the street.
Yeah.
Where he's like, whoa, fuck, I've never fought a dude that is actually trying to kill me.
Yeah.
I'm used to being like, he snuck so quietly. Even Darkseid couldn't hear him.
Well,
and
he's
like,
not
wait,
used to any of that.
What?
He's blending in with the shadows so much. Darkseid's crazy vision missed him.
Seriously, it's like
crazy. That crazy vision.
Crazy.
That's the Omega Beam.
Yeah, the Omega Beam.
No one can stop my crazy vision.
I don't even know what you're referencing, but I like the sound of it.
Darkseid's like
Darkseid's crazy vision.
his Omega Beam.
Like, I don't know enough about Darkseid.
He has like laser vision.
Yeah, he's got
but it doesn't
lasers
go
that,
straight.
like-
It goes like every direction.
What?
Yeah, look
Yeah,
it up
it's
right
awesome.
now.
No, it's pretty cool, but it's
It's crazy.
it is crazy
I remember
vision.
watching.
I'll give it that.
I remember watching a comic or reading a comic once, and it was like shoots and ladders. His laser vision was bouncing everywhere and hit Superman in the back.
Well, that's one of my favorite parts. Is like there's this
Like an intern in charge? Do you think somebody just fucked that up when they were drawing it?
No,
they
that's
were like, yeah, it's crazy vision.
Jack Kirby drew this, so it's like
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's why he has
Galactus
it's the
helmet.
power
yeah,
god.
he does have
Yeah.
a Galactus helmet on.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of
It's like
one.
does have a
He
Galactus.
does.
He doesn't have like a full
not like-
Galactus helmet,
yeah.
but
He's got
for,
the half lack.
for context, dear listeners, we've noticed a commonality between all different comics, which is the most badass villains all have something that resembles a Galactus helmet. So whenever you know that shit's getting serious and cosmic, you see them all have like this stupid helmet with all of like the thorns coming out of it. And that remains true, not for Darkseid, but it's like you can tell he can like get beat up by Superman because he's like got a helmet that's like, oh, he's real deal, but he doesn't have like the thorns coming out of it.
Do you see his crazy vision, Jack?
Yeah, it's
But you look at like
it's
Perpetua.
crazy.
You look at like Perpetua or the Dark Knight or the Batman who laughs when he goes crazy mode.
That's true. He does. Go
And like
sicko
they've
mode.
got kind of like spikes hanging out of them. So
They do.
but yeah, I like that he's just like a dude who's not Rick Sanchez. Like he's like a dude, he's just like resourceful and smart and well trained.
Yeah, and apparently like incredibly resilient because he got shot. He got shot with a gun a bunch of times, and was totally fine.
The older I get, the more I read that, and I'm like, I know what it's like to sprain my ankle.
Yeah.
That's well, because like, you know, there's something about like when you make something hit closer to home where it's like whenever you see like torture scenes and they're like picking up your fingernails,
like,
you're
I'm
like,
done.
oh fuck, that's like that seems really intense because you've had like your fingernail like do that. But like, you know, I've never been like shot, but that's probably way worse. Like that's I will say that's
destroys everything
Like your
that it comes into
muscle.
contact
It's not
with.
like you can keep punching after
It's like
that.
getting stabbed with a knife, but instead of it being like a sharp point,
it just explodes.
Yeah, it just explodes inside of you.
Yeah,
it shreds all your muscles, and it fucks. Like if you get shot in the arm with a gun, those muscles are messed up forever.
Yeah, you just have like a non-functioning arm essentially. But like a lot of this stuff where you're like, well, I've never been shot, so like I could probably shrug that off because that's what John Wick's doing right there.
And,
and I'm
which is
kind of
fine,
like John
right? Like,
Wick, you know.
I don't mind.
And like
In this
but there's
medium.
like the difference of like, oh yeah, if it's a high power rifle and you get shot up close, it's probably not as bad. But I don't know.
I
wouldn't trust it. That's
I mean, it goes through faster.
You know, I like it because, you know, I feel like what you like about Batman, you know, when you make up for it with a lack of spectacle, sometimes you make up for with pure human, you know, indomitable spirit moments, you know.
that's my favorite.
Like Batman's will is what's pushing him through these injuries that he has, you know.
Yeah,
every
I think
fight
that's what
scene
makes him.
And then in the background, they like cue the anime opening theme song that starts to play.
I think that's kind of what Frank Miller does so well with Batman is, you know, in every
So gritty.
all of his comics with Batman, you know, he's like getting fucked on, like shit's going wrong, but then he brings you to the surgeon table, you know?
Yeah.
And he's the surgeon.
This is an operating table.
yeah,
And it's like, and shit like that just makes you go, damn.
that might be a fun,
That's fucking cool, dude.
thing to do with this comic, this podcast, to be to revisit the a lot of the classic moments in comic history, reread
like
some stuff,
All-Star
and then give
Batman.
some.
Yeah, All-Star Batman. That would be good. I like that. And not the Scott Snyder one.
No,
the
no.
cool one
I
with
think
Frank
this
Miller.
is like this guy. I think becomes Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
it
he's
becomes All-Star Batman.
yeah, he's All-Star Batman.
Which makes me laugh because this guy's so like level-headed and reasonable and like wants to do good.
Yeah, but that's what All-Star Batman did. He just made Batman. He just made Robin eat rats.
Yeah,
that was different.
And then he kicked Nightwing into a volcano after calling him a slur.
That's okay. I mean, he was just making him stronger. That's the whole idea.
True.
I do.
That's not how Bruce Wayne became strong. Like he trained. Yeah, maybe it's it's not like he lived in a cave.
Yeah, that is the big thing. Is
He was rich and then traveled the world learning kung fu.
Yeah,
it's not like
and he probably
ate
had
bats.
money to like stay in a nice spot. Like that's his big thing. Is like whenever you see Bruce Wayne do anything, you're like, okay, but like
I'm pretty sure he pulled himself up by his bat straps. Guys.
his bat straps, his batarangs. He definitely. Well, he just had a small loan of his entire family's inheritance.
Yeah, it's small loan of like $1 trillion.
Yeah, and then he just got to go around what is so funny is like Bruce Wayne does exactly what everybody who's like incredibly rich does, and they're like, I'm gonna go find myself, and then like uses all that money to just fuck around in all of these different cultures, and they're like, I visited Tibet, and I really thought I found like my inner peace. And instead he's like, I became like a master of like jujitsu. It's kind of like a big deal, but you know, I'm just learning a lot about myself, and then like he comes back and actually does stuff with it, but you know, you got to give credit to all the billionaires' kids. They probably also
Billionaires kids.
they probably also think they're going back
That's
and
why I'm
doing
voting
stuff.
for Barron Trump in the next election, personally. But
Yeah, Barron Trump is gonna come back as Batman.
I don't want
Yeah, I feel like we got to veer away
these
from politics.
goddamn. Well, we're leftists.
we have to veer away from politics.
Like acceleration.
Fucking
I don't say
cowards,
we.
dude. I bet you like writing.
I don't
this
know.
stuff.
I don't want to say. I shouldn't say we. I am a leftist. Tripp, I think he's a libertarian.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Tripp and I agree on a lot. No Medicare for all. That sucks ass.
That could not be farther. Dear listener, I work in community mental health. I am not a libertarian.
I remember Tripp once said, "Hey, whatever you want to do in the privacy of your own home, I don't care."
Yeah, exactly.
But he's trying to teach my kids stuff.
Well, also, I hear Tripp whenever like they talk about like Medicare for all, he just starts shaking his head.
Wow, just anybody that doesn't work can get
Yeah,
Medicare.
people who just sit on their ass all day can just get everything paid for. All right.
I am angry. I'm not angry.
No,
Well, I am, but not at you.
No, not
you'd
at
be
you
turning
guys.
green. You've got the Hulk mic right now.
I do have
You've
the
got
Hulk
the
mic.
Trip smash. But yeah, I think,
Go ahead, you.
no, I think like what I really love about this comic too is I guess like like at the very end, it's kind of like a little Batman story where, because it starts off like, okay, this is like the initial parts of him, but it's still like a really solid story. Like it's not like recapping a bunch of stuff where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, because have you ever read like those, we're gonna try to do the origin story again, and it kind of only feels like it's for people who like know the character and like the character, and then you're like, oh, you get to like see all the beats. It's like an AMV of like their coolest moments early on. But this one just like holds up as a solid
story itself. Yeah.
where you're like, oh, that's cool.
That's like the comparison for me is like we read the Daredevil, the Daredevil origin, which is like kind of bad.
Also,
Yeah.
Frank Miller.
Also Frank Miller.
Also Frank Miller.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
read Daredevil
it's
year
a nice
one.
comparison
Yeah.
between those.
It was Man Without Fear.
Yeah, year one.
Men Without Fear.
Man Without
Man Without year one.
Man Without
Man
Years.
all right.
Without Year One. And that was, I mean, I don't know.
Well, go. No, Connor was saying something, and I interrupted him,
I did too.
as I'm known to.
No,
do.
your joke was really funny, Tripp, by calling it.
Remember what I said earlier?
I thought that added a lot to the context. But I'll stop talking about politics if you can stop talking about really good jokes like that.
It's 6-star ratings.
what I mean?
Coming from the guy who made the masturbation joke 5 minutes
owned
into the
it.
episode.
It's weird.
That's because he was talking about onadism. If you know what onadism is, you're like, that's funny.
He wasn't talking about onadism.
I was misusing a word. I do think it's funny that you guys are obviously related and doing the same thing, and you're like, it's only funny
Yeah.
when I do.
It's only good when I do it. You don't understand. It's crazy because Tripp copied my master's degree, too.
That's true. I did do that.
He's been doing that for years.
I just copied it first. That's what I
Yeah.
did.
He copied it first and he graduated first. Yeah. It's
Well,
good.
that's what makes it so devious, because now no one's going to believe that you copied it so hard.
It's true.
Well, somebody, I think you did have a point. I want to hear. Somebody had a point, and I want to hear it. Before, do we remember?
I don't remember. I just said that it's just comparing it to the Daredevil one, where
Yes.
this is like a good story, and the Daredevil one's like the
Not a
A&B
good story.
highlight reel.
Which is weird, right? Because, like, on paper, they're fairly similar. Like, had a really strong run on Daredevil. Like, he had a really strong run on Dark Knight Returns, right?
Yeah.
So I expected Man Without Fear to be like, swinging he's done it before. He has had the same setup before, but it was just boring and bland.
Yeah, I think, he on Man Without Fear, that was his first thing. Like, he started out on Daredevil and then, like, got kind of poached by DC to be like, hey, work on
Right.
Batman stuff.
Right, okay.
He cut his teeth on Daredevil initially just because, like, the sales were in the shitter. So they were like, you're a new guy, try out whatever you want. And then he, like, really bounced it back.
He's like, I'm not going to have him fight the Hulk.
yeah,
Don't know who did that. Don't know why I had to draw that.
Daredevil? I thought we were talking about Batman.
No, the start of Daredevil is there's an early issue. He's fighting people like the Gladiator.
And honestly, he's lesser for not having fought the Gladiator. The fact that he's fighting a bunch of this bullseye.
Doesn't he writes a comic where he fights the Gladiator?
Yeah,
Like, Frank Miller has the Gladiator.
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah,
Frank
the
Miller
Gladiator
has the
comes
Gladiator.
back.
Yeah.
and he does cool
And
things
that
with
comic
that.
And then
is
on
fucking
reveal,
sick. He has like
he
a
just-
chainsaw. It's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
I think there's in some of the early ones. I think maybe he's just drawing. I'm not sure.
And on reveal, he reveals one of the cards in your deck, and then will destroy it if he has more power than them, which is cool.
That's not that Gladiator.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
not
Marvel
different
Gladiator.
than
That's the alien guy, right?
who
Yeah.
should have a Galactus on.
The
I guess
Shi'ar.
not
He's
that.
got like a mohawk. He's got,
Yeah,
like,
no, but he's not like he's like Superman, so he's like he's like a strong guy. He's like the strongest guy, but he's not like Galactus helmets are reserved exclusively for
World Eaters.
like world eaters, big level
Yeah.
threats where it's
Hela.
yeah, it's
Hela.
like how do we take this down? She's the goddess of death or whatever. So you're like, man,
That's a
that's
good point.
really tough.
Yeah.
Like, we can't punch our way out of this, and then they punch their way out.
They
That's
do, and they
different.
do.
That they do it in like a cool, smart.
Some guy with a giant fist is like, you ever seen this fist?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
hey, universe-eating threat, have you ever been clobbered?
yeah, it's clobbering time.
Ben Grimm walks out of the police union building.
Yeah, Ben Grimm is also a fascist. We'll
fill you in.
We'll have to read some Fantastic Four because there are some good comics with it, especially the ones where Ben Grimm starts getting on QAnon boards.
Yeah,
and he starts just
yeah.
really.
because he's just the pilot, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he's-
everybody else is like,
Well, he's just a guy from the Bronx.
Yeah, he's a
playing
guy from the
stickball.
Bronx, and he doesn't get this whole. I don't know why they have to put
He's
fluoride
from
in the
Yancey
water.
Street.
He's
Hey.
like, actually, I think I would have gotten rocks from the fluoride in the water before I got rocks from the whole spaceship thing.
Hey, Reed, how come when I look in this little window that I carry around, things get closer?
Oh, that's Ben. That's your phone.
Yeah, all right, Reed.
You're a smart
you say
guy.
so, Reed.
Yeah,
Say so.
Reed's just such a wise guy, ain't he?
Well, I can't even drink beer bottles because I smash them.
I just smash him.
And
How
that's
come
why.
you're called Mr. Fantastic and I'm called The Thing?
It's so awesome that they picked their, it was like Johnny Storm, Mr. Fantastic, Susan Storm.
Well, that
one fucking rock ape.
the one in like the Fan 4 stick or whatever. It's like in that one, they're like the part where Johnny Storm's like, he's like, oh, what should we all be named? And then like Johnny Storm, played by Michael B. Jordan, just turns to like Ben Grimm. He's like, how about the stupid fucking dumb bullshit thing that no one ever wanted? And then he's like, whoa. And then he's like, calm down, Ben.
I'm
it's
just
like,
joking.
what the fuck? That's really mean. And he's like, he's their friend.
Whoever
Like,
wrote
he's-
that script just like has only ever seen men interact on movies.
Yes.
And was like, yeah, they roast each other.
Yeah, they just really burn each other down.
But we haven't really been defeating that stereotype thus far tonight.
Yeah,
but we-
our things. Well, I haven't said like,
I guess
Tripp,
we're some
it's a
kind
good
of
thing your
fantastic
mother got that
four.
abortion.
Oh,
That's a guy. No, but that's a guy who's like,
Say that again.
he sees all his buddies.
Say that again.
He sees all his
yeah, that's
buddies.
for the people in the back so they can hear you.
Yeah,
All right, if I had a time machine,
that's what we do. We can edit this out.
All right, yeah.
All right. Anyways, the one thing that I think that I love about
should we
that.
call what should we call? What should we call ourselves? Some kind of Fantastic Four?
some kind of Fantastic Four podcast.
That would be awesome.
I
Have
like.
you guys seen that movie?
Seen parts of
Yeah.
it.
No, that's. Yeah, he's like, say that again.
one.
He's like,
That's
this
how
is.
they get their name.
He says this is really
He says that.
fantastic. He's like, he's looking around at like an aircraft hangar with like a bunch of shit in it, and he's like, this is really fantastic, Reed. And he's like, say that again. And then
Reed, the smartest man on earth, is like,
oh my god, I'm Mr. Fantastic, kind of. If you think
That
about it.
movie's really bad.
Oh, that movie rocks.
I don't know that
Literally,
they've made a good Fantastic Four movie.
they haven't.
No.
Well, the best one is the one that never even got released by. It's like Roger Corman. They like made it for like $1 million, and they basically just made like a really embarrassing high budget fan film with like Doctor Doom and Mole Man and stuff. So it wasn't like that bad because all of them were like really bought in, where they're like, this is gonna be our big break, because it was like new stars. So they were all like trying their best, and then like they were promoting it, and then Marvel was like, hey, stop promoting that, it's not going to come out. And they're like, what? And it was just for Fox to keep the rights,
like
so,
the Batwoman thing.
yeah. it was all, and so they just shit canned it, but now that's out everywhere.
I love Mole Man.
There's a really cool documentary called Doomed that's all about that and kind of goes into
fun.
that. It's really interesting. We should watch it sometime.
Are you guys ready for Robert Downey Jr. to play Doctor Doom?
Our favorite Romani actor, yeah,
Yeah.
he's exciting.
I mean, he'll probably be fine. I feel like he's a good actor.
He's like, but the big thing is
I'm
like,
probably just not going to watch the movie.
I'm not going
Personally.
to.
Oh.
I haven't watched any Marvel movies since Infinity War.
I've watched every single Marvel movie that's come out, and there was a time when our friend Jackson, he and I used to go to every single one of them. And I think it was after Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness, when he was just
so
like,
bad.
he was like, I don't want to watch these anymore. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just watch them by myself. So I go to every Marvel movie by myself. So I'll just go into like Ant-Man Quantumania and eat a bunch of chicken wings at Alamo. Because
Actually, sounds kind of sweet.
it's not bad. It's definitely something where like there's some where you're like, man, this was just a massive waste of my time and money.
That's the problem. Is like, I don't want to have to see the Eternals.
You don't.
Yeah.
You didn't want to. What I hate about the Internals. You know that Family Guy clip where it's like it insists upon itself. It's like that's the entire movie. It's just like it insists upon
The
itself.
thing is, like, for the Avengers, they took like 4. They each got their own movie. They're like, this is a Thor movie and a minus Hulk. Before they clinked their fists or whatever and said "flame on."
yeah, that's what happened.
yeah.
But the Eternals, they're like, probably don't need that. Plus, there's like 11 of them, so we can do this in one movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cram them all together.
They've heard of these, guys, right? And they were like, people. The thing is, I was mad when people that made the movie seemed surprised that it didn't do well.
yeah.
Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Well, they saw like Guardians of the Galaxy, and they were like, "We can do." Marvel just doesn't miss. Like Marvel, anything that we put out, everyone's gonna love. And then like they're like, "No, people like Guardians because word of mouth was like, this is a really fun like sci-fi movie with like fun, charming characters." And then word of mouth for the Eternals was like, someone really thought they were doing something here. Someone really thought something was going to happen where they're talking about like life and like how like to value like the life around you. And it's like they didn't hit on anything that was any more poignant than like Captain America, the Winter Soldier. So it's like, yeah, just don't go see it. And it's long. They have a sex scene in it, which is cool.
Well,
we like that.
That's awesome.
and like
That's all it is. It is awesome.
And like Guardians of the Galaxy is made by a guy who's good at making movies.
Yeah.
Like, James Gunn is just good at what he does.
He's a good storyteller.
I'm excited
is.
for Superman for that reason.
Yeah.
But like I'm less excited
Yeah,
for like
I'm hyped for that.
Doomsday and stuff. I'm less excited for like all of the Robert Downey Jr. being all that because I'm like I don't like
Oh, so you can play Doomsday too?
there's gonna be a Doom. Oh yeah, he's gonna come out and get a Galactus helmet. And it's like now we've really got a problem because not only is he Doctor Doom, but he can punch really hard.
But he's also made of
But he's
spikes.
also made of spikes. How are we gonna fight him if he's made of spikes? Before we had contingency plans against all of his magic and power,
But not his spikes.
but not his spikes.
Dear listener, just for context, I am a Superman hater. I don't like Superman that much.
He can be tough to write.
But Doomsday is cool. Doomsday's the best.
Oh, that, well,
What a terrible take. Can you
the
believe
worst.
the guy that made the 6-star rating system has a take like that?
That's the worst take
I think-
I've ever
I think
heard
Doomsday
ever. Where it's like, you know,
I'm pro Doomsday.
I fucking hate Batman. I think it's fucking stupid, but Batmite rocks. Batmite's just so fucking
Where's that
cool.
Azrael guy?
Yeah.
I mean, why are you saying Batman? You should say Man Bat, right?
Man Bat. No, Man
Bat's
Bat's
cool.
cool.
Man Bat's
Nightfall.
actually sweet.
Man Bat's like a guy like me that was maybe they just was just like, what? That'd be kind of cool.
No, but it's
You know,
like,
just somebody didn't have a better idea and got really lucky that it landed.
no, that's like saying, what's his face? Batman Who Laughs rocks. You're like, I hate Batman, but goddamn, it's the Batman Who Laughs fucking badass.
Yeah, but he's pretty cool though.
Dr. Manbattan's cool.
Dude,
That's
Dr. Manbattan.
Dr. Manbattan.
Dr.
is
Manbattan
crazy.
fucking rules, dude. He's
I think Dr. Manbattan low-key diffs. He low diffs Doomsday, probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, probably.
He absolutely low-dips Doomsday.
he probably loaded maybe Doomsday because of the spikes. He's gonna have some trouble.
Oh, I didn't
He's
think
gonna
about
have some
the
trouble.
spikes.
Yeah, you
Nobody
never
even knows
do.
what his fucking powers are.
Who?
His powers are
You know,
to
I
revive
think-
every time he dies, but he comes back strong.
Who?
I think
Doomsday?
it's kind of
Doomsday.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doomsday.
Yeah, he's just the best.
Doomsday was a baby,
Doomsday comes back
and they kept
stronger.
throwing him at a wall.
Yeah.
And then like he kept getting stronger. He would clone the baby every time that he died, and then he kept getting stronger every time he cloned him. And then suddenly like broke the wall, so he just kind of tried to keep killing him. But like so now every time he dies, he comes back a little bit stronger.
Yeah, he's like
You think it was
So
the
that's
guy
the
who
thing,
accidentally
he's
dropped
like
a
the
baby and
Manhattan
just
who
really
laughs.
needed to...
Yes.
he's like, I was doing it for the betterment of
I didn't
society.
mean to drop your baby, ma'am.
I was making him stronger.
No, look.
No, he's like Alan the
So,
Alien.
Like, theoretically, if you kill Doomsday enough, he'll, like, become stronger than Dr. Manhattan.
Yes.
Like, if you just keep killing him, like, he'll eventually scale up to Manhattan.
Yeah.
level.
Yeah,
That's
how
why.
did that-
That's why
how did that
Superman.
end?
That's why Superman doesn't kill Doomsday. He just like he straps him to a meteor and shoots him off into space.
Yeah, weird that he didn't even think about that sooner.
It was weird. He
This is the
pantsed him,
problem.
and then Doomsday just
Well,
left.
like, he didn't know
He
who
gave Doomsday
was.
a big hug, and he told him, it's okay, Doomsday.
To return to the...
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. We're...
Yes, a third Jack.
Oh, the third of
The
the,
third Jack
triumvirate
is in
has
the building.
arrived.
Jackson has arrived.
And
Come.
there's a neighbor in my apartment complex. He keeps setting off his smoke alarm.
Wow.
Oh my
He sounded
god.
I think that our
Oh,
fans are
sick,
going to want to
dude.
hear
Jackass.
anything else about that story. Sorry, that was so
Hey,
mean.
Probably not.
I'm
Wait,
sorry.
Did
Connor,
you read,
I
did you read
forget, what's
Batman
your-
Year One?
What's your address, Connor? Can you remind us of what your address is and what apartment you're in?
Nope,
your
let's cut
mom's
that.
house.
Let's cut that.
No, that's
What was that? What was that you said earlier about not saying dumb jokes, Connor?
Yes. Not interrupting.
yes.
New Jackson?
I'm New Jackson now. I'm not taking
Jackson,
Jackson.
you're
too.
getting
I'm
Jackson.
not taking.
What about
You're getting Jackson.
That's not
Sorry.
happening.
what if you're like New Jackson City? You know, like the movie New Jack
New,
City.
That's
New
that-
Jack
that-
City.
New Jack City.
Yes. Perfect. It's. I've been saying that. I've been calling
The
you.
Jackson who laughs genuinely.
The Jack.
Who actually,
Dr.
like-
Dr. Jax Hatton.
No, yeah, Dr. Jax Hatton.
I think we're getting to the end. I can tell because none of us can stay on a single topic.
That's
Tripp.
the best part of every podcast.
Who?
I'll say but my final thought. Some of my final thoughts I liked that the first thing he did was fucking jump into a room of the super rich and was like, "Not, you've been getting away with this for too long. There's somebody here to stop you."
Yeah.
Because like that's like, the thing that's been irritating about a lot of Batman is like is he just fucking ripping off muggers this whole time? Like, he's just beating the shit out of homeless guys in the night? Like,
Yeah.
No, they said that he's working his way up in the comic.
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I like
Batman
about it.
know that he's working his way up.
He does.
Yeah.
But like,
He's
I'm used to him.
he's trying.
He's climbing the corporate ladder of beating up random people on the street.
Well, he's
Connor,
gonna get
we
that.
have the same mom. You can't keep making your mom jokes. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome.
That was really your bad for taking that personally. That's
Yeah.
thinking
You're
about
like-
your mom in that way.
I like that he was like, I appreciated Batman being like, because like, theoretically that's what you would want him to do, right? That's like the way that he works and is fun for me a lot more than, it's like, why would, because theoretically that's what I would want, like that's the problem with like entrenched power structures is that I'm not saying Batman will be a solution because I'm not one. But I appreciated.
But he might be.
I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about putting on the cowl, but
If
I will
only
say
someone out there had risen up and taken justice against the
I was
you get-
the elites into their own
like a
hands.
bit better outfit, like
Yeah.
a more superhero-esque
Yeah,
outfit.
and if he
also
thrown,
his secret identity did not stay secret for
if
me.
he had thrown like a batarang, they wouldn't have. They probably wouldn't have
Or
caught him.
maybe you should have had like a butler making food so you didn't have to go to McDonald's
Yeah,
and get
that's-
like a
Dude,
McChicken.
he
or
wanted
Badass
to, he
McDonald's
wanted to
worker.
get caught.
I will say the one thing that I like about Batman, I once heard it described by somebody that it was like the Nightwings or like Batman's like criminality all like basically started from like the street level and then like worked its way up, so now it's entrenched in like
Just super
the upper
smart,
level
yeah.
of politics, where like the Penguin is like a fucking like greaser guy who eventually became like the strongest guy in Gotham, but then like that's why like they talked about it in terms of like Nightwing, where like all of his stuff like started from the top, worked its way
Bloodhaven's
down.
criminals all
Yeah.
their power trickles downwards. Gotham's power trickles up, like moves upwards.
Yeah, so there's it's sort of like a trickle up economics version through Batman. I think that's cool.
I also think
And the base
it's
of Frank Miller.
it's a real, you get to work your way up in the world based on your merits,
How
meritocracy.
thuggy.
Exactly.
How
I've been
good.
saying this
Yeah.
for years,
Yeah,
but no
yeah.
one's been listening.
And then none of those guys, that are like the low level, like, oh, what's up, boss? They don't got the drive. They don't
No.
have
Not-
the merit.
That in all fairness, like when I think about like merit, I'm like, damn, the Penguin does have some merit. He made that work.
Mhm.
I'm like,
He did.
yeah, you're dealt,
tough hand, hand.
a bad hand. You're just born. I think this whole thing. I don't think he just looks like a penguin, right?
Yeah, no, he's
No.
like a
Yeah, like
Yeah.
little
yeah,
flipper feet.
Yeah, he's
Oswald
just ugly.
Cobblepot.
He just is a monster. He looks ugly.
Yeah,
Penguin is great.
Watch the show; it's good.
I haven't watched
I haven't
it.
finished it.
Um,
I also like. I remember. I think this is one of the best Batman fights that I've read. Is when he's stuck in the apartment, and
yeah,
the cops come.
Yeah,
I remember reading that and being like, he's like, so Tom King, whose stories I like, often will be like, nobody could remember the day where Superman blotted out the sun. And he just has like this really high, like Homeric language about his fight scenes, which is boring as shit to me. I think he's a great writer. I really like him, but like every fight scene Frank Miller writes, you're just like in Batman's head.
yeah.
Really well, and it really works for me. And like having him just be a dude who's like wrapping himself in bandages and hiding in a burned out apartment building and like collapsing the building to get rid of the SWAT team.
yeah, rocks.
And then like using bats to like fly his way out of it.
Yeah, it's
Like-
it definitely, that's probably one of my favorite parts of just like the ingenuity that a lot of Frank Miller's Batman comes in with, where you're
Yeah.
like, damn, this seems like a scrappy ass dude who's just like trying to get by.
He doesn't
As
have
opposed-
all his tech and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah,
As
and
opposed
gadgets.
to somebody being like, this is the device, Bruce, that will do what the plot needs.
He's
It'll
like,
make
awesome.
completely invisible to all police.
Yeah, right.
like,
All
eyes.
Just give this to me. No one else needs this.
Here's your bat brand, so you can brand all of these SWAT team
You need to
officers.
brand all these criminals.
Bat brand.
I need the 007 brand.
I do like how the Bat brand in what's it called? The Bat brand in Batman versus Superman. All the criminals who went to jail with the Bat brand, like would get like killed in jail.
Yeah,
like for some
what?
reason. And it's like, yeah, because that was the thing where it's like if you go to regular, if we put you in like Gen Pop, like they're just gonna kill
Gonna
this
kill
guy.
you because you were branded.
Because you were
by Batman.
branded by Batman.
He made you his bitch.
Yeah.
And now they're
Somehow
gonna
that's
kill you.
equivalent to being a pedophile in prison.
Yeah, like
To people in Gotham, okay? If you lived in Gotham, you were a criminal. You'd be like, those pedophiles, you know,
goes-
they're at least, you know, like
Maybe
fighting
they're-
a good fight like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Those guys ain't so bad.
it goes Chomo and then like Batman brand for some reason.
That's also fun. I like that Frank. You know, he really works well with cop characters or people or cop, or I should say, private detective
like
noir
noir type,
characters.
yeah.
Like when he talks, like it's fun. Frank Miller at the end, or Gordon's at the end by his pregnant wife, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm useless."
Yeah.
This guy saved. He's like, he saved the old woman. He saved the cat. Paid for the suit. I was like, all right.
Yeah, and he said my gun's heavier than
Yeah.
ever, right? The
hunk of
the old
metal
yeah.
in my hands is heavier than ever. I'm like, all right, this is effective storytelling.
That's why I think that this really should have just been a Jim Gordon comic book.
I'm fine with what, you know, I mean, it's not, you got to imagine, you know, you got to remember, like,
Jim Gordon doesn't aura farm once in this.
The three
What do you mean,
fucking
Jim Gordon beats the shit out of a
issues
bunch of cops?
Jim Gordon having to, you know, hide like police records and erase body cam footage. You're like, this is really just sad.
Yeah.
Having Batman in there helps get the Jim Gordon story out the door.
Yeah.
Also,
I-
Jim
I-
Gordon
I know.
is Jim Gordon's like the character that we're seeing Batman through, and that's why this is like Batman Year One. It's like supposed to be a new origin story.
Yeah, I don't think
so.
he would work as well as a character without, you know, obviously Batman.
Well, he doesn't, I mean, he doesn't work. I wish I said this earlier. I just wish there was more Jim Gordon stuff. In
Yeah,
this.
yeah, sure.
I
there are
just
a lot
wish
of
he gave him a big ol'
opportunities.
kiss.
I'm it's impressive that it's 4 issues.
Yeah,
The,
very
the
concise.
storytelling that
It's
he achieved
so-
in 4 issues.
And it's all like it's so all gas, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
everything that you read is good, and like
If it's so good, where's Batman Year 2?
that exists and it sucks. That exists and it's
Sucks.
drawn by Todd McFarlane and it's terrible. And
Oh, no.
it was drawn at like separate to this, where it was like, oh, this rocks. We should do another one of these. And then they made Batman Year 2, and they're like, we should stop doing Batman years. And then the follow up.
It's all just a flashback to when he was a kid, and like instead of before his parents died, he just got like his candy stolen by a mugger.
He's just 2 years old.
Well, no, it's all about like, it's like, well, now we've gone through like the procedural, like down to earth Batman, like what happens when we introduce all the wacky guys, and it's like the introduction of all
Mud
the-
Man.
and they all have like shitty 90s art, but
Batman versus the Juggler.
the Batman comic that's the most the biggest follow-up to this, because it's written not by Frank Miller, but it's like drawn by the same guy and a lot of the same creative team, is The Long Halloween. That's like
is that Jeff Loeb?
yeah, it's like it's all kind of like similar vibes, and
Yeah.
like a lot of people say that's the next part, because this is like that kind of follows up the same thing, where it's like Batman's been in the Force, but he's not like, you know, he's not the Batman we know who's gonna dodge Darkseid's crazy beams.
2
He's
years
just
into
a guy.
He's a guy.
He's just a guy, but he's still dealing. I will say, I don't like The Long Halloween. This is a really bad take, but I just don't like it because I don't care about Gotham crime families. They're just boring as fuck.
Yeah,
I thought it was good.
It's good, but it's also like, you know, where's the Penguin? Where's the Joker? Like, whatever. I feel so bad because that's how I
Just
feel.
like
whenever,
a little baby.
No.
Yeah,
It's
I'm like, oh,
where's
this-
Mr. Free?
and he's like, no, the Falcone family does not do. And I'm like, but where's
I've watched The Sopranos. I've watched it.
Yeah, but then he's also, well, that's like Calendar Man. That's even worse. That's like, I'm like, where's the Joker? And it's like, well, we can do Dog Welder. Like we've got that guy on deck.
Wait, who's the they were
I would fucking love a good Batman dog welder comic. Would be fucking.
I don't even know what Dog Welder is.
welds
welds
dogs
the
to
dogs
people's
together.
faces.
Wait, is this
yeah.
That's real.
This is a real guy.
in what?
In real life.
Grant Morrison brought him back.
Oh, so it's a DC. Is he a real Batman villain?
Yeah,
Google it. Look him up.
Of course, Grant Morrison brought him back.
yeah, he's
Brought him back from when
Obscurity.
Brought him
he was
back from like
created.
the grave, I guess. 'Cause, you know, no, someone made that, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing over
It's,
here?"
yeah, like an offshoot
What were
comic.
you?
Yeah.
I kind of like that. You know, I just for the love of comics.
Love the game.
You know, Grant Morrison
Just for the love of
was like putting dog
dog
Welder in there.
abuse.
Dog welder is
Does he
cool.
carry multiple dogs with him? Are they always big dogs?
I think he like finds dogs. Most of the time, dogs come to him for some reason.
And then he sacrifices them.
I think
He
they
just
live,
covers-
right?
Is
I
he
think
just wearing
he
a
is a
suit
bad
made
guy.
of peanut butter?
Yeah, he.
Well,
puts
yeah, you're
peanut
gonna
butter-
die if you get your.
It's a
you know-
woman, and it
Well,
puts
maybe
peanut
not.
butter on her pussy, and then just
Oh, that's good.
the dogs come running.
That's
I
good.
think this
The
might
dog
be
welder's
tilting.
a woman.
The dog what?
The dog
exactly.
welder's a white woman.
You see, your prejudices are like, oh man, a welder, that's a man, but no.
What
Yeah,
about
That's true.
It's
There should be
That was prejudiced of me.
there should be a Batman villain called the Dog Gelder who just runs around gelding. It's when you like cut their
Castration.
castrate them.
Oh,
mean
so
like
he
a
would just
guy
be
just
like
doing a
fixing
public
dogs.
service?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
just sure
cleaning up the streets.
Stray dogs can't procreate.
That's the dog gilder. It's like you don't have to like wear a suit for this. Like, no
we'll-
one's gonna
we'll pay you to do this. You
Yeah,
know
this is actually
right?
a great.
Oh
public
no, I'm
service.
not gonna do it in like a surgery style. I'm just tearing those bitches off.
I'm
Yeah,
the Dog Gilder.
I'm ripping these balls off like a
Drives away in
Beyblade.
his drives away in his dog penis shaped car.
Comic book podcast might be tilting towards a male view. I think.
No.
Wait, what part about-
What do you mean comic
What
book
part about
podcast
this?
wouldn't
What
be
part about this
that?
crew makes you think that it's going to point towards a male perspective?
I think there's
Yeah, right.
Okay, unironically,
wait, is
that's
that a real comic?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's unironically that's way better than Dark Knight 2. Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Which isn't like that much of a sign off.
No, that's about as low of a bar as they can
You're
clear.
right. You're like,
Well,
well,
but-
it's readable.
Well, I mean, you know what they say: dark lightning never strikes the same place twice. All right, that's it.
That's it. That's
Okay,
perfect.
yeah.
We got it. We got it. Yeah.
Write that one down.